Utah School for the Blind student trip, Boston, Massachusetts, May 8th through 12th, 2023. Student Casey Reyes interviewed on the Ogden campus.
So before we went to our trip to Boston, we had coursework, and it ranged from a variety of topics such as travel skills, learning how to navigate the airport, navigating a busy city, and communication skills such as how to communicate your needs effectively, especially to those people who don't know you, like maybe a stranger who asks for a stranger who you're asking for help in public, or maybe even the flight attendant on the plane. So you need to be able to explain what you can see in layman's terms.
Smiling student Casey Reyes, wearing a teal shirt, describes his experiences in Boston while photos are shared, including blind and low vision students standing in the Boston airport with a guide dog, Casey and a friend exploring a museum, Casey with his guide dog next to a statue of a British soldier, and classmates seated under a large colonial sculpture.
It's like I can see about a foot in front of me, I can see all color, large detail, like colors but not fine detail, like facial expressions, all that good stuff. And just a bunch of other skills that you will need to be successful in our trip to Boston.
So something that I did before I went to Boston, I researched a bunch of, because we went to Salem, so I researched a bunch of cool facts about Salem and the Salem witch trials.
Student Taylor Smith, wearing a dark jacket, is interviewed while photos are shared showing students gathered on a historic street in Boston, standing in city gardens founded in 1837, and a bronze statue of a pilgrim in Salem, Massachusetts. A group photo of smiling students gathered outside the Perkins School for the Blind is shared, with a photo of a bronze bust of Helen Keller and an archival photo of Helen with her teacher.
And then I also researched a bunch of history about Boston itself prior to the trip, and when I was on that trip and I just knew what they were talking about as they were talking about it, and I was able to make that connection of learning it prior to this trip. We went to the Perkins School for the Blind out there, and I had a light bulb moment. I was like, wasn't this the school that Helen Keller went to when she was little? And it actually was the school that she went to, and they have a cottage named after her and Anne Sullivan, which was her teacher. And so something that we learned when Helen Keller was 6-ish years old, she ended up having to go to this school because she could no longer see or hear. So yeah, and that happened when she was 19 months old, when she lost her hearing and her sight. And I was like, yeah, it's a lot.
Honestly, in person, it gives you more knowledge and you're learning so much there when you're in person.
Student Cheyenne Kent, wearing a red shirt, describes her experience while photos are shared of Cheyenne in a colonial cemetery touching a tombstone, a smiling student holding a tray of fresh lobster rolls, and a group photo of low-vision students standing barefoot on the beach on a sunny afternoon.
When you're reading a book about it, or listening to auto descriptive about it, you're not really getting a whole lot of experience, of travel experience with the learning experience, with the learning of history about it.
My favorite thing we did was finding famous people at Fenway Park.
Rebecca Payne stands holding her cane during her interview while photos from her trip are shared showing students gathered in front of Fenway Park Stadium in Boston, and a photo of Rebecca smiling inside the stadium with Boston Red Sox baseball fans.
Luke Bryan, Bruce Springsteen, Florida Georgia Line, Kane Brown.
Yeah, this was actually my first time to Boston.
Student Sean Fletcher, wearing a blue polo shirt, shares his travel experience. We see a photo of Sean with classmates smiling while posing alongside the bronze duckling statues in Boston Public Gardens.
I've never been to the Northeast, and so it was really interesting to go down there, and it's really cool. They got Salem, which we went to Salem. A lot of history down there. That's one of my favorite parts, was the history for sure.
I love how diverse downtown Boston is, because there's a little Italy there, so all the Italian settlers settled in a little area of Boston, and then there's another area where all the Jewish people settled.
Again, we see student Casey Reyes wearing glasses, sharing final thoughts while we view 2 short aerial drone clips of the downtown Boston skyline and a historic cathedral.
And as we went all on this trolley tour around Boston, it was really cool to look at the cultural differences and the cultural impacts that each of those cultures had on the city of Boston and the history, and ultimately they contributed to what Boston life is like now. From the architecture, the food, the customs, the way people talk there, the lingo, and yeah, it was awesome.